Hey, welcome to Mike's Diabetes World. Yes, I wore this shirt earlier this week, but it's the only one I could really get to in a hurry. So today I want to discuss this little device. It's an older one now, but it still helps me quite a bit. Now, is the pump something you can use, or is it just a waste of money? Well, in BC, we were a little slow on approving the pump for everyone to be able to get a pump if need be. It's not sort of like you go to the drugstore and say, oh, hey, I want a pump. Let me take this one. You have to go through a whole protocol in order to get a doctor's prescription, sometimes the letter. But that's not all. People think, oh, well, I'll have an insulin pump and everything will just be perfect and I'll be able to go and live my life how I was before. I could go out partying. The insulin pump will give you an amount of insulin to cover your day-to-day needs. We're talking what your body needs will be covered by an insulin pump. And to me, that alone would help out quite a bit. However, it does something else. But it does it where you would need to program it in order to help you. And ideally, you will do this with your doctor or with your diabetic educator, which we talked of yesterday, was it? But you need to follow through. The good thing about having a pump, before I get into the next part, good thing about having a pump is you get to use the computer software that comes with the pump. And that will be able to tell you how you're actually doing using the pump. And you can do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. The device I use is the MiniMed 630. And like I said at the beginning, it's an older pump now. There's now 770. And all these pumps, when they start coming out, are doing one thing. They are trying to get to mimic just like a pancreas. And they've been called mechanical pancreases for a while. And you need to either use the software or the good old paper and pen, and keep records of your blood sugars and how you're doing. Because if you don't, they don't know how the pump is doing. Now, when I was... I'll come back to that story in just a sec. I got a pump, and I figured I was just like most of you thinking, oh, well, everything will be solved now. But besides this baseline, or basal, as it's called, there's also bolusing. And bolusing's there for correction. It's for what you eat, how many carbs you eat. So, excuse me, it's not like carbs. Carb counting is going to mysteriously disappear. Where did it go? Who knows? But you have to, every time you want extra insulin for a meal or for a correction, you have to program the pump in order to give it to you. But it's a hell of a lot easier than going and pulling open your little needles. And if you travel, it's a lot better. Because when I first traveled, I started when I was just giving shots. And, they always looked at you kind of strange trying to get needles, syringes, insulin, everything together. Came a lot easier when they all knew what this was. They didn't know how it worked, but they all knew it was. And for those of you who have business trips and such, if you go on plane, well, this is in Canada or BC anyway, they will swipe it and look for any explosives. And I thought this was really neat. I had to take it off my body, but there's usually a latch that you're easily able to do this. And they swiped it and they said, oh, it's clean, you can go. But, I was prepared. But this was also the days back when I had the binder with me, and it used to be a thick binder. And in there I'd have everything explaining the pump. I had pump instructions. I had what my dose was, what to do in a low blood sugar, what to do in a high blood sugar. I kind of miss that. I think, sometimes I think I'll just try to get back to doing that. My high blood sugars still happened. Low blood sugars, guess what? They happened. So you have to be aware of this. Don't just go off and think it's going to be fine, everything's going to be wonderful. Now, when I was, getting back to that other story, when I was deciding on my first pump, I think it was my second pump, sorry. I read this comment a lady had left on one of the pump websites. And it said, oh, this pump has so many alarms. It's alarming all the time. Well, your pump is going to alarm. And it'll alarm when you fall out of the areas programmed normal blood sugars. And it's there so you could take action. And I remember reading on in this lady's comments, and she said, oh, she returned it because I just can't have it going off all the time. And I went to another pump where it didn't even ring. Well, chances are at that time that pump wasn't as sophisticated. My first pump was pretty basic. There was no computer record keeping with my first pump. It just wasn't there. But what we needed to be cautious about is when your pump rings or alarms, it's either saying, hey, I have too much sugar here, I need some insulin. Or an alarm saying, hey, I don't have enough insulin. Now, there's another part that goes along with this. In order for you to get the most out of the pump, you need to have something called a CGM. And a CGM is continuous glucose monitoring. It's a little device, whether you have, I think, Dexcom or the Medtronic model, you pretty well have the capability of having a CGM. And a CGM allows for your blood sugar to be read every 15 minutes. Now, with my pump, I have to calibrate it with my glucose readings, just to make sure. It's like winding a watch, they said, or making sure your watch is at the correct time. But, that's something that it can be really forgetful. The pump will shut down if it doesn't, so it won't shut down, but it won't read your blood sugars. And it's there to ensure that it's doing its job right. Now, where was it going? My pump is the new pump now. Got it back. My mind isn't totally gone yet. Got back to where it now, the new model of my pump, you don't have to do calibrations anymore, which to me is going to save the world of time. Now, you're still going to have to do, if your blood sugar goes over, I think the most, say, 13, 14 whatever the milligrams per deciliter or whatever the current reading is, you need to still test for ketones. And there are machines that will test for ketones for you. Shows how outdated I was. When I spoke to my nurse a while ago, when I was having problems controlling my levels, I went through a period of a high blood sugar. And, I'm talking about like 17, 18 blood sugars. For those of you who are American, when I mentioned blood sugars, you want to times it by 18 to get what your scale is. And I said, oh yes, I have large ketones. And she was taken back a moment and said, well, don't they kind of give you a number of what they are? And she had thought I was using about the same size as your glucometer, a ketone meter, which I wasn't. So we're looking at getting one for me. Because with me being brittle, you want to make sure that you take control of everything and every information you use. Use it. Don't just, oh, well, here, doctor, you figure it out. You need to take control of that and handle it. I talked to you about coming up with a plan between you and your doctor, could be your diabetic nurse, and dietitian maybe. If this is what your blood sugar is and you're constantly having problems, well, we may need to change things. It's not the end of the world. You haven't failed. Just some corrections to how your body's working with the insulin, and maybe some corrections on how you do the pumps. Now, they don't they do kind of mail it. They mail it out to you, your pump. And then you get an email. Did I get an email or a phone call last time? I think I got a phone call. And saying, well, now that you've got your pump, we need to book you for training. I thought, oh, okay. And they've done this the first time I had a pump, which was such a relic. my second pump, third, and this is my fourth pump. But a lot of times I'm thinking, oh, well, yeah, I don't need to go any more training. I've had enough of training. But every pump has a different feature. And just because you run one brand of pump, if you move to a different brand of pump, doesn't mean you should just stop it, right? I don't need any more training. Just give me the machine and let me go. I would honestly have to say that I benefited from doing the extra training. And I'm sure you will too. Whether it's your first one or your 10th one. But that's my talk on little insulin pumps. If you think you want one or need one, talk to your doctor. Where you are, some healthcare plans are covering them now. I know when I went through it, just a quick story. When I went through my insulin pump, my first insulin pump, I didn't have a sensor. And for most of my second pump time, I didn't have a sensor, even though they were available. And I started having problems. And at this time, BC wasn't covering them. And we had to go through a whole tribunal and get okay that the province Medicare system would pay for it. And I'm thankful we did. Keep your eye on the prize. What is it going to mean for you to have better control? Anyway, talk to you later. Have a good day.